So here's my fix. The initial crawl is much better than what happened in Force Awakens. After Return of the Jedi, the Emperor is killed and the Empire is overthrown. But instead of whatever the Republic being proclaimed or any of that stuff, the galaxy's politics shatters into a bunch of little nation states or system states or whatever you want to call them, and there's no overarching political system. Kind of like the Foundation trilogies, Fall of the Empire. What's left of the forces that were the Empire have called themselves the First Order, or whatever they want to call themselves. Call them the First Order here. And the Republic forces, which I might accidentally call the Rebellion, because they're basically the same thing, they've been fighting each other, sort of thumb wrestling each other, trying to come up with some kind of way to defeat the other and then rejoin rebuild the galaxy as either the Empire again or the Republic again. But first they have to kill the other. So we got Leia commanding the Republic forces, and Snoke, who we will not really meet until the next movie, will be controlling the First Order. So Luke is in hiding. He's not there. He's in hiding on that little planet, but only hiding from the First Order. His whereabouts are known to Leia and several others in the Republic forces, but he has set up a Jedi school that he wants to train new Jedis, but currently has no students, and we'll find out why near the end of this movie. Okay, so we still have a Poe, a Finn, and a Rey, and Poe is a scout. He's a fighter pilot, but he's scouting the First Order operation here on Rey's planet. Finn is a conscript stormtrooper, none of this child soldier stuff, but he's a rookie, and he isn't all that happy about what he is being told to do and what he sees going on around him, basically torture and murder. So he deserts. I ain't doing this. He deserts. Rey, of course, lives there. So as they flee from the First Order in various ways, because Poe is spotted and he is shot down and he lands on Rey's planet. So they're all running around near where the First Order stormtroopers are killing people and trying to stay out of their way. So in the background we can see a used starship or spaceship lot. I mean, I may have a sign that says "used starships," cheap. And as we run around in the background, we can see this thing, and in it is the Millennium Falcon. Now, it's not like any of that stuff. It's just in the background. So, hey, wait a minute, isn't that like that? So, one after another, they get to the Millennium Falcon because they discover that it's the only one that has a working star drive. So it's really their only choice. They might find this out either by breaking into the office of the used spaceship guy, or maybe he's been killed and he's got a bit pad on him that has all this information. So they all wind up on the Millennium Falcon. Poe pilots, because he's the pilot. Finn and Rey man the guns. And so Finn can do this stuff because he's been trained as a stormtrooper. He's been trained on what is to him heavy weapons. So he's okay. He gives a very quick, do this, do that, do this, do that, like that, to Rey. So he's got, so just like on the old Falcon, there's two guns, and Finn's a working one and Rey's working the other. Now they take off and they're pursued by the bad guys, and they're both firing. Both Rey and Finn are firing madly, and Finn is doing relatively well. And Rey is doing terribly, but she gets better faster than you would think. And this is our first hint that she has some kind of force power. So they flee, and they're going to flee back to the rebellion forces. On the way, Poe will interrogate Finn very carefully to see where his loyalties lie, and he will become convinced that Finn is a genuine deserter, that he is not a spy or anything like that. And so when it comes time, he'll be able to vouch for him. They get to Leia's flagship, which is many ships, many fighting ships, none of those silly bombers, none of that stuff. Poe vouches for Finn, and he is assigned to the defense of the ship, one of the anti-fighter guns. Leia meets Rey and recognizes that Rey has some kind of force power, and she is going to stay close to Rey, and so she will like give her a tour and explain things and give her little kind of tests that Leia seems to know now that she didn't used to. Things like being able to know that there's a drone behind her, one of those little drones behind her when she shouldn't. So they begin to get this kind of mother-daughter bond, which will come up later. So we'll now go to the First Order and their latest weapon, which is a cobbled together, and not very well, big turret on a Star Destroyer hull. And this is to create a new kind of ship, which is called a monitor. And these have actually been used on Earth in World War I and World War II. Basically, it's a battleship turret mounted on something smaller than a destroyer, which you'd think would just roll over if it was fired, and it might. So this is going to be called the Solus Mort. We see the Solus Mort. That picture at the bottom is an actual monitor from World War I. So this thing is going to have a lot of problems, a lot of teething problems, because the Star Destroyer is not really built for this task, but it was the only thing they had available. They couldn't just build one from scratch. So the Solus Mort is going to be tested on an uninhabited system to test the gun on 3 planets that have atmospheres, because the gun fires a shell that overheats the atmosphere and thus will kill anything, at least on the surface of the planet. Unknown to the First Order, there's a Republic listening post there, which has yet to discover that the Solus Mort has entered the system. So Solus Mort opens fire with the turret, which basically fires, then pivots, and fires, and pivots, and fires. So it's going to fire one shot each at each of these 3 planets. And between shots 2 and 3, the power goes up. And the guy in charge, who might be Kylo, we might meet Kylo here, will, what's going on? And one of the tech guys will say, well, we knew this might happen. It's, the power system's overloaded. We haven't been able to suss that out, In version 2 of this ship, we'll be able to do it. But right now, we got this problem. So 15 seconds later, the power comes back on, and the third shot gets fired. The third planet has the outpost, who has noticed what's going on and has gotten off a partial warning to the Republic that says, hey, there's this thing, and and then they're all killed. So go back to the Republic fleet. Leia hears the warning and calls for General Solo. Now, by this time, as we know, the Millennium Falcon is at the Republic fleet. So Solo appears with Chewbacca, and he has a sort of a fond but distant sort of, like divorcees who still like each other, like that. But he's delighted that he's being given orders to go see what happened to this listening post in the Falcon. Woohoo! So, in the meantime, Leia sends Rey with Poe and Chewie for guards and a shuttle to go to Luke. Finn stays behind to continue his training, and he is seen by the weapons chief, Rose Tico, who is this is interesting. So she has an attraction for Finn. The shuttle gets to where Luke is, drops off Rey, hey, how you doing? Chewie, and he have a good time, Luke and Chewie. And then Poe and Chewie leave again and leave Rey with Luke to be trained. He begins to train her. Rey has really silly ideas about, you can make people do things and lift things up and so forth. And Luke says, no, not exactly, and doesn't do any of that, leaf stuff or any of that stuff. It's real training with a lightsaber that he will present her with. You'll have to build your own, but here, use this in the meantime. Han, in the meantime, has seen the Solus Mort. He has seen the effect it's had on the planets, and he's come back. Leia decides that this is too dangerous to be allowed to join the main First Order fleet, which she knows in general where it is, and it ain't where the Solus Mort is. But if they join up, it will be bad. So she orders the entire fleet to go and knock out this thing quick before it becomes effective, or hopefully before the First Order even knows that it's successfully been tested. So they begin furious preparations to go to where the Solus Mort is and take care of it. The Millennium Falcon, Han is like, hey, once more into the fray. But Leia has ordered his ship to carry drones. And basically these big boxes that are going to be affixed to the outside of the Millennium Falcon. And so Han is not very pleased about this, but it's Leia's order. And we're not sure if it's because the Falcon is the best thing for this or if she's just trying to keep Han out of the way. We don't know. Luke, we cut back and we see as the movie ends, this is the end of the first movie. We're just setting everything up for the other two. Luke is still training, and she's not doing well, but she's in the training. It's yes, master, and try and hit me again, and so on. So that's the end. Obviously, this is the next movie is going to be this. We never see a Maz Kanata. Too bad. There are no porgs. Sorry. And we also find out that why there are no students. Luke had students, one of which was Rylo, and he turned to the dark side and ran away. And this was a catalyst for the other students to either follow Rylo to the dark side and go to the First Order, or to, as Luke did, you might remember, in with training with Yoda, to leave early. I gotta go. They're going to go to the Republic because they need our help. And Luke, no, you're not ready. And they go anyway. So there's nobody here right now. So Luke can turn all of his attention to Rey. And that's it. To be continued.
From our last movie, Chewie, Luke, and Rey are on Luke's island. Finn is being trained on Leia's flagship as a gunner. Poe is back to being one of the X-Wing boys. Rose is controlling the weapon system on the flagship. She's sort of third in command after Leia and Admiral Holdo. There we go. Rose is in the weapons section of the flagship. She's sort of third in command. There's Leia, then Holdo, then Rose. Leia's in command. Snoke is still commanding the First Order fleet somewhere. Kylo is on the Soldismort, overseeing the testing of that supergun. Han's in the Millennium Falcon, ready to go off to the big fight and launch decoy drones, something he's not all that happy about. And the whole fleet is about to jump to where the Soldismort is and blow it up. So we get the initial crawl. The Empire's gone, it's a shattered galaxy, yada yada. You can read that for yourself. Go back to Luke's island. Rey talks to Luke about why he left, why he took himself out of the fight, as it were. He just says, I was tired of it. He just wanted to stay true to the Force, to be the master of the next generation. Because it was him or nobody, really. Ghost Yoda shows up and talks with Luke about Rey. And Yoda says, she's, got a lot of potential, and Luke and Yoda are surprised that Rey can hear Yoda. She can't see him, but she can hear him. That shows that she has some kind of force power that will become handy in the near future. So, back at the fleet, we're batting down the hatches and pumping up the foop deck and all them things, and Commander Holdo is not a doofus, and Admiral Akbar is in there as the intelligence officer, since he is the one who figured out it was a trap the last time around. Just before they jump, Han and Poe show up on the flagship. Poe's there to make sure he knows what he's supposed to be doing. Han is there to have a last moment with his ex-wife. And we get a sort of a typical, don't worry, baby, I'll come back to you, scene between Han and Leia. And then we'll also see one inverted. In other words, Rose will be the don't worry, baby to Finn. And Finn will be like, huh? And so Poe notices, and he'll explain it to Finn when he gets back, because Finn is a trifle clueless in this regard. Well, he was a stormtrooper all them years. So off we go, ha-ha, and zip, zang, zowie, we fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. This time, instead of those silly-ass bombers, the B-17s, the X-Wings and the Y-Wings have fusion bombs, and they are like dive bombers. If you want to think about it, think of dive bombers from World War II, dauntless dive bombers particularly. The Soldismort seals hold up, but Kylo, he's on board, but he's all hopped up, and so he's going to go out and shoot him up too. And says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm going to go take care of this situation myself," and off he goes. So the shields are holding, and the bombs aren't getting through. So the shields aren't, and the bombs aren't getting through. So we cut back to the Falcon, trying to basically get the TIE fighters to be distracted, so the X-wings can kill them. Meanwhile, there's an escort destroyer with the Solas Mort, which get blowed up by the bigger Republic ships. And here's when we first hear about Snoke, because Kylo is shaken from his concentration when that destroyer blows up, and so he decides to make a report to Snoke and says, "We got trouble." Meanwhile, back on the ship, on the Solas Mort, the captain decides that he can use the big honking gun to shoot at the biggest ship out there. That's the flagship, Leia's flagship. But as we've seen, sometimes when it goes to fire, the power goes out. And this time, that's exactly what happens. And that means that the shields are down. And so Poe and what's left of the dive bombers, the X and the Ys, drop bombs on it and blow the bejesus out of it. Hooray! Kylo is now telling Snoke that, number one, it's the Solas Mort has been blowed up and that it's not his fault. Snoke says that he will come now to the same spot and try and surprise the Republic fleet before they jump away. So now Kylo and Snoke are going to be together to try and trap the Republic fleet. So now we jump back to the Millennium Falcon, where Han is still punching out drones, and a couple of TIE fighters go past. So he sees them go zooming past, and he's looking at him and saying, "Don't see me, don't see me, don't see me." And they turn and come back. So he's had it. His show is over. So he gets ready to jump out to get away because he can't fight a bunch of TIE fighters all by himself. But he gets hit by something and he's knocked unconscious, and the engines on the Falcon are knocked out. This is all by TIE fighters, one of whom is Kylo's. The Republic ships, not knowing about Snoke coming, but knowing they want to get out anyway, broadcast the message to, "Okay, let's get out of here." And so they're gone. So on Luke's island, Luke senses that Han and Leia are in trouble. So he's going to do what he does every time, it seems. When his friends are in danger, he goes to help. And so it'll be sort of a replay of Empire Strikes Back, where Luke takes off, this time not before he's trained, but before Rey is trained. And so he and Yoda will have an argument. And Luke will ignore it just like he did the last time. And he knows that who might be killing Han and Leia is their son. And he feels that part of the reason that that's happening is his fault. The Republic fleet rendezvous at a place near a star. We don't really need to know what it is. We can pick a name. The Falcon is noticed to not be there. So we cut back to Snoke's flagship, which has showed up at the wreckage of the Solas Mort, and we see that Kylo and some of his stormtroopers have dragged Han off the Falcon and has brought him to be interrogated by Kylo and Snoke, because they recognize that he may know a lot of information that they need to know. During the interrogation, Han doesn't recognize Kylo and just is very, I ain't talking to you. And then Snoke tells Kylo that Han is his father. Snoke is known all his time, but didn't want to let that information go to waste, as it were. So Kylo takes this very badly, because he's always thought, and Snoke has kind of let this hope build up, that he was a son of Darth Vader, or the grandson of the Emperor, something. So he had a great bloodline behind him. And now that he knows that he's just the son of a smuggler, he can't handle it. He just goes bananas. And this part up through here would be as the script was. Now, originally, I had intended, just like everybody else, for the third movie to be the day when all the three are reunited, the torch is passed, and so on and so on. Well, we can't do that now because Carrie Fisher's dead. Now, Carrie Fisher died a year before The Last Jedi came out. They had plenty of time to change things around, to take that into account, but they didn't. I would. So, here's what I'm going to change. Kylo doesn't just get mad, he becomes cold. He kills Han. Just boom, kills him dead. Snoke, says, "Well done. You have fulfilled your destiny," or something. And so Kylo says, "Throw that dead smuggler out with the garbage." And so it is. It's put in a body bag and tossed into a hole to be dropped at a planet. On this ship, they don't just toss their garbage out. They drop their garbage on a nearby planet. And they're going to set up a listening post on the last planet that hasn't been blown up in this system, in case the Republic comes back. And so they're just going to dump the garbage there. And Han's body accidentally gets dropped there too. Post is set up. There's no crew. It's just an automatic listening post, and the bad guys jump away. They're going to go try and keep looking. So now that this has happened, Chewie and Luke are coming here are coming toward where they know that Leia was. Their assumption is that Leia's force has been attacked by the First Order, and so they're going to go to where they were. Rey looks at a star chart and says, "He's not there, he's there." And she points to where we will discover where the Solus Mort was. So she just has a feeling, she says, and Luke thinks about it and says, "Okay, we'll go her way because I have a feeling that she's right." Let's put it that way. And Yoda, who shows up again, says she has strong power, she has, and so on. And he says to Luke that she may turn to she's progressing too fast. She might turn to the dark side like Kylo did. So Luke and Chewie and Rey arrive at the system that the Solus Mort was at, and they notice the listening post. They go there and they find Han's body because of Force abilities. Luke will dig the grave himself because he believes that this is his fault for disappearing. When he disappeared, he made this possible. If he had been here, Han would not be dead. And so he's sort of just ready to just give up the whole thing. He's like, "I can't help anybody. I should just go away." And Rey says, "No, Master," and she calls him Master. You must fight on. This is not over." And she says to Chewie, Chewie is of course distraught, but Luke is too busy in his own grief to even really notice. Rey says to Chewie, but not to Luke, but says to Chewie in a very angry way that there are many who must die to balance this death. And she says to Chewie, not to Luke, "We," meaning her and Chewie, "will see that the balance is maintained." So she's moving into the dark side. But Luke is too wrapped up in his own grief to really notice. And Yoda I'm not sure what's happening. Yoda is not available. Yoda is not around to bug anybody because he knows that no one will listen to him. Back at the Republic fleet, repairs are being made to the various ships, including Leia's flagship. And the shield generators are currently offline because they need repairs and they can't stay on while you're repairing them. Now, a first order a reconnaissance drone was passing by and turns, and you basically watch it float by, and it turns and the cameras whiz and it sees we see what it sees, and it sees the Republic fleet, and we hear it sending a message to someone, actually the First Order, and then it turns and heads for the flagship at very high speed. So its orders are obviously, if you find some of the Republic, tell us and then attack. And so that's what it does. And it rams the flagship, and this is what we'll see. This is what we saw in The Last Jedi. The reconnaissance drone slams into the flagship. There's lots of, "Hey, it's coming, stop. Okay. And Leia is sucked out the hole, and she's dead. Rose, Finn, Holdo, and Akbar all survive. They get out of the bridge before the air is all gone, but Leia is dead. So now we can. Okay, so since we can't have Leia, and I'm not going to have Leia and Han. So this is we can't have the reunion of the three. So I decided that we were going to have to change the story so that now Leia's dead, Han's dead, and this story is really more about Rey and Luke and how Rey is going to go to the dark side and then come back. So Kylo, having done all this stuff, is being alternately berated and condescended to by Snoke, and he's just had enough. So Kylo says that Snoke is just not capable of the task that he set himself to rebuild the Empire. And so Snoke sends all the guards out, and he's going to teach Kylo a lesson. That is to say, they're going to have a fight, and Kylo and Snoke fight. Snoke is really good, but Kylo kills him in a fairly complex battle with two sabers against one, and spinning and dancing and the works. So when Snoke dies, suddenly the door opens again, and the guards come back, and they bow to Kylo. He's the boss. Assassination captain, and we all move up in rank. So Kylo has had enough. So they ask him. So these guards ask him what he wants to do, and Kylo says, "It's time to end this. One way or the other, we're going to end this war, and we're going to decide what the galaxy is going to be right, and we're going to do it right away." So he goes into the map room and uses, sort of closes his eyes and points, and he's pointing to a place called Farmer's Pulsar on the it's a 3D map, and it's beautiful. And so he points at Farmer's Pulsar, and then we cut to Holdo. Since Leia's dead, Holdo's in charge, looking at a similar star map, and she picks a place for the Republic forces to rally to, and that's a place called Farmer's Pulsar. So we know that they're both headed for the same spot. They don't, but we do. Yeah, Q on them. Yeah, okay. So now we have set the stage. Now we're ready for the third movie. Here's the third movie. So we begin with a funeral. We begin with the Republic fleet having recovered Leia's body, giving it a burial in space by the Resistance, and it's a coffin. We can see her face, and that's it. And it's sent out into space. So there's that. And then we cut to another sort of funeral on the planet where we saw Luke, Rey, and Chewie before, the planet that Han died on. Yoda appears and says that Leia he has terrible news that Leia is dead. And Luke says, "Now I'm the last." And from one point of view, he is. He's the last of the three. But Yoda says, "Not the last." And we can have that be a throwback to, no, there is another. But what Yoda is talking about, of course, is Rey. Yoda then tells Luke where Leia's body is. Rey, Luke, and Chewie go to get the body. And they all go in the shuttle. They leave the X-Wing behind. Yoda berates Luke for doing this. Okay, he's leaving his X-Wing behind. That means they're coming back here. And Yoda says, "You don't have time for this." And Luke says, "Yes, I do. I don't care what you say. I have time for this." So we cut to the next shot is of them finding in space the coffin, picking it up, and they take it back to Han's burial place. We'll cut back to the burial planet, and we'll see a double tombstone. We don't see Leia being buried. So Luke gives himself. He's by himself, and he's talking to them. and he's telling them that he made his mistake. He made a mistake, and it cost them their lives. The mistake was to disengage, to go away. So he thought that if he went away, he would have no responsibility for what happened, but he has all the responsibility, and so he must make this right. Now, Chewie and Rey have been off to the side, and then let Luke go by, going back to the ships, and Chewie goes up and he starts making Chewie noises, and he starts being more and more louder. He's screaming. He pounds the ground. He pounds the ground. He's just complete grief. He's finally letting that grief out. Throws some dirt on the graves, and he turns away. And now Rey watches him leave. Her response is to become cold and vengeful and without humanity. She's gone straight to the dark side. She has, this must be avenged. I shall avenge it. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what it costs me. She's going to avenge these deaths herself, and that's that. And she doesn't care what happens after that. So she turns and everybody goes back to the ship, and everybody takes off to go to the big fight that we're going to. Now, during this, Rey is almost entirely silent. She just sits in the corner with her hood over her head, and it's clear that she's not being a Jedi. She's being a Sith. She's becoming a Sith, and Luke is just too busy to notice. So now we cut to the Pulsar. The farmers. We go back to Farmers Pulsar, where ships start popping in and fighting. So the First Order and the Republic ships pop in and just start fighting, and it's very confused, and much destruction and screaming and booming and so forth. Kylo is now on the Snoke's ship, but he is getting reports from other ships that some of his forces have deserted because they were loyal to Snoke. They're not loyal to Kylo. So this is another pressure on him. He needs to finish this. He needs to destroy the Republic. He needs to do it now, and then he can deal with the traitors. And so he's got more and more pressure on him. The last pressure is Luke calls him personally and demands personal combat to answer for the death of Han and Leia, who Luke says you killed your mother and your father. And Kylo becomes very cold, just like he did before he killed Han, and says to Luke, okay, this is how you and I are going to end this in the old way. Kylo really believes that all he has to do is keep Luke busy and the war will solve itself. But he's going to duel Luke in the old way, and he believes that he'll beat him. Kylo accepts the challenge. This is his way to remove Luke from the game, and it will show that he is worthy of loyalty to his forces that will stop the desertions. So he accepts the duel. So Kylo orders his ship to go to a place away from the fight, which is still raging, and waits for Luke to appear. Luke appears in the shuttle, the X-Wing, but the X-Wing was left on the burial planet. He appears in the shuttle with Chewie and Rey. And so a docking port opens, and Rey and Luke enter. Chewie stays behind. The stormtroopers are lined up in a guard of honor down the hallways, and so they're walking ahead toward the combat area, and Rey suddenly bursts into a run. So she's going to go solve this herself. The stormtroopers don't know exactly what to do, so they start shooting at Rey. They sometimes shoot each other by accident, and Luke just goes bananas and starts killing stormtroopers left and right and chasing after Rey at the same time. He says, no, this is my fight, not yours. And meanwhile, he's beheading the odd stormtrooper and so forth. Rey makes it into the combat area where Kylo is waiting. It's a circular arena. He's waiting for Luke. But she bursts in. Kylo says, go away, little girl. This is for the knights to fight it. Rey attacks anyway. She's wounded. But before Kylo can kill her, Luke appears and begins the duel, the true duel. He says to Rey, go to the throne room and kill Snoke. He doesn't know. Well, we don't know. He may not know that Snoke is dead, or he may. Either way, he wants her out. Luke and Kylo fight. Rey has gone looking for where Snoke is. She is on a gallery overlooking the arena and sees that Luke kills Kylo and Kylo kills Luke. Luke says, you're the last hope of the Republic. Go save the galaxy. She goes nuts. She grabs weapons. She's becomes a killing machine in a rage of blood and death and screaming, and she's just intending on killing pretty much everybody. Yoda appears to her and says, no, this is not the way. You must go and save the rest of the galaxy. This revenge you have here is peanuts. It's nothing. So she runs into the engineering section and starts zapping things that will eventually cause the ship to explode. And then she runs back down the hallways to the shuttle where Chewie is, and they leave. And behind them, boom! Kylo's ship blows up. So now, the fight is, so people in the main fights notice that happening. So the First Order people are getting even more nervous about, who's in charge now. They don't know. So they just fight, and hope for the best. In the meantime, Chewie and Rey have started flying up to First Order ships. Rey is using her force powers so that the guys in the ship that they're up next to don't know they're there. Basically, the sensor guys don't recognize that they're there. And then they board the ship. They do damage, enough to make it to kill as many people as they can, set some kind of bomb, and they flee again. And so behind them, kaboom, kaboom. And so Rey is becoming more and more dark side. She's still obsessed with killing the First Order, but she has gone over to the dark side in pretty much every way possible. So she's remarkably effective, but we can see that she is becoming evil. Now we go back to Poe, and he says to the flagship that he notices that First Order ships seem to be exploding for no reason. And he doesn't know why that is, but he likes it. So the fight goes on and on and on. But as we see, First Order ships start leaving. They start fleeing. They're not staying to fight. The ship's captains are calling for reinforcements. They're calling for help. They're calling for orders. And there's nobody. So the fighting reaches a crescendo as people leave and shouting, and what do we do? What do we do? What do you do? The first, one by one, the First Order ships surrender. Are not destroyed. They just surrender. A ceasefire ordered. But Rey is not interested in a ceasefire. She wants to just keep right on killing the people who killed Han and Rey and now Luke. So she keeps going and doing what she's doing. And Force Ghost Luke appears to her and says, "What are you doing? This is not the way. This is not what I taught you. I was a master. I have passed on. Now you are the master, and you must act like a master." So she comes up short, and she realizes what she's doing and what Luke says. You must stop. There's no hope for anybody if you don't stop. So she stops shooting. She turns off her lightsaber, and they go back to the shuttle that they have outside on this current ship that they're killing people on. And we fade out. Now, we fade back in, and pretty much everybody's back on board the flagship. So Poe and Rose and Finn are there, arrive to see Rey, who's practicing her various sword moves, while Force Luke and Force Yoda are off in the corner making pithy remarks about her style. When Poe and Rose and Finn come in, they make snarky remarks about them too. It's like, this is the generation that is to follow us. And Rey, of course, laughs, and Poe, Finn, and Rose, they have no idea what's going on. But they say that the neutral worlds, the worlds that broke away from the Empire and the Republic and went their own way, have begun to pledge themselves to the Republic. And so there will be a new Republic proclaimed soon, and Holdo will be the first interim head because they have to wait for an election to create a real representative government, a real republic. And so we're almost done. And so Finn says, they all are laughing and having a good time, and Finn turns to Rey and says, I never knew your last name. And Rey thinks about the answer, and she goes over to her bag and she pulls out Luke's lightsaber, powers it on, looks at it, and says, I'll take the name of my master, the man who taught me everything that I am. My name is Skywalker. And the Skywalker saga continues. The end.